In early 2017, I noticed this cute little female cat started visiting my backyard. She would always visit with a male cat, a spotted tabby. They were feral cats, so my plan was I decided to try and get them on a feeding schedule. That way I could gain their trust a little bit and then try and get them through the trap neuter return program. That basically means you just humanely trap them, get them fixed and vaccinated, and then release them back into the territory. So it prevents disease spreading and also it prevents kittens being born onto the streets. Unfortunately, in March 2017, I noticed she had a large pregnant belly, so it was really too late to get her fixed. So my next plan was to try and grab her before she ended up having kittens on the streets. Unfortunately, she disappeared before I could even attempt to do this, and she ended up having the kittens somewhere in the neighborhood, likely on someone else's property. So I had no idea where she'd had them, so I planned to wait until she brought them to me. Then one day she showed up in my backyard and she looked absolutely terrible. She was so skinny, she had infected pus leaking out of her uterus, and she had diarrhea leaking out that had worms swimming in it, what looked like roundworms. She looked in such a state, I thought she wouldn't even make the night. I couldn't grab her because if I'd have grabbed her, she wouldn't have been able to go back to the kittens, and the kittens probably wouldn't have made it without their mom. So I was in a real bad predicament, and so was she. Shortly after I took this picture, she took off down the back alleys and I wasn't able to follow her to see where her kittens were. So all that was left for me to do was pray that she would make it through the night, pray that she would make it back to her kittens, and pray that she would come back to my yard the next day and hopefully bring the kittens with her so I could help them all. So the next morning I went outside into my yard and called for her, but she was nowhere to be seen. So I took a walk around the block and took a can of food with me and started to call for her on the street over from me, hoping that I would just see her and she would come to me. So I was walking around the block, tapping the can of food, and to my surprise, I saw her. She came to me, and I was able to give her some food. I was so relieved that she'd made it through the night, and I watched her eat and then decided to wait and see where she went after she'd finished. After she finished eating, she actually ended up going under a neighbor's porch on the other street. And at first I thought I would knock on their door and ask if I could crawl under the porch to look for the kittens. But then I thought better of it because I wasn't sure if they were cat people, and if they said no, then they'd realize they had cats under there, and you never know what might happen. So I thought better of that, and I just ended up leaving and just trying to tell little girl before I left. I was saying, please bring your kittens to me. If you bring them to me, I can help you, I can help them. And I was just basically willing her to bring the kittens to my yard so I could help her. So I went home, I went to bed, and then the next morning I woke up and had to go to work. But before I went to work, I plugged in my little heated pad out there just in case she heard me and decided to bring the kittens to me. Anyway, I came home from work that night and went straight into the garage to check, and I could not believe it. She had actually brought the kittens to me. Just happened. She's brought the kittens to me. Here they are. Look at them. I put a heat pad on and I came home and they're all on it. I'm going to feed them now. They're eating solid food. I can't believe she brought the kittens to me all the way from the other street over. Okay, I'm going to give her some food. And also, the big surprise is this guy's been keeping an eye on him. I found him with him this morning too, and he's watching over him, making sure everything's okay. Oh, Mama can't even get in the food. Look at him go on the solids. I'm gonna go get some more food so they can all eat. So let me just go get one for Dude and one for Mama too, because it's a frenzy. They're literally sticking their whole heads in there and getting covered in it. Oh no, don't eat the beef. I want them to like gorge themselves. Looks like that's what they're doing. So yeah, it's good news. She brought them to me. I just prayed for her to do it and she brought them to me. So as you can see, I was super happy that she brought the kittens to me. So my next plan of action was to get her inside and get her comfortable. I ran upstairs, I grabbed my cat carry case and brought it back down. And I was kind of worried about how I'm going to get this semi-feral cat into a carry case. It's hard enough to get a pet cat in there, let alone a semi-feral. But so what I ended up doing is just placing the kittens inside the carry case. And then Momma, you know, she was so sick and weak, and it's almost like she knew that I was helping her. She trusted me. Luckily, I'd been able to build up trust with her over the weeks, you know, feeding her. And she allowed me to place her in the carry case, which was amazing. So I took them upstairs. I put them in my bathroom so I could keep them separate from my cats. And I set them up with blankets, food and water, and just allowed her to decompress in there overnight. And I'll post some footage shortly of the first night when I first took them in the... I actually had to put them in the bathtub and set them up with the blankets and the food and water so they could just relax. So I'll play some footage. Upon bringing them in, I did a little examination and noticed obviously they had fleas, and I also figured out something I'd never seen before in cats, that they had lice. I just saw these little white dots on their head, and then you touched the white dots and they started moving, crawling. So the vet ended up telling me that the other name for lice is walking dandruff, because they look like pieces of dandruff that crawl. Pretty gross, but yeah. So I set them up inside my bathroom until I could get them to the vet. And just examine them. Everybody was comfortable the first night. Mama was laid comfortable. The babies were latching on and feeding on her milk. So everything was good. Obviously they had the health issues, well, not health issues, but the fleas and the lice that needed to get taken care of. But I kept them in the bathroom until I could get the appointment at the vet to get them all seen to. And here I'll play some footage of that evening. So my next priority was to take them all to the vet for a full examination. I took them to my local vet where they were treated for the fleas, the lice, and the internal parasites and worms. The mom had the slight infection in her uterus, so she was spayed as soon as possible and vaccinated. The kittens were too young to be spayed at the time, so we brought them home and allowed them to grow a little more before they were spayed and vaccinated as well. So over the next few weeks, I watched them play and bond together and decided to name them. I named the little black one Salem, the long-haired black and white one I named Sage, and the short-haired black and white one I named Solstice. I'd always called the mom Little Girl, so that stuck. I also started to notice a really strong bond develop between Little Girl and Solstice, and that was a bond I didn't think I could break up. Originally, I'd planned just to keep Little Girl and get the kittens adopted to good families. But having seen how strong the bond was between them, I couldn't bear to break that up. So I ended up keeping all of them, all four, because I didn't want to break them up. I just couldn't do it. I still have them to this day, and they're so happy. And Solstice here is still running, chasing around her mama and trying to cuddle with her at all times. Nothing's changed.
Is that your baby? Do you love Mama? Aww.
So they all settled into their safe new life indoors. Momma healed from a rough life on the streets. And in these before and after pictures, you could see the transformation that happened. I always say about these pictures that they remind me of the song, "Started from the bottom, now we're here."